And welcome to my channel. Today I am doing the part 2 to my video about the Aborigines, the American Aborigines in Georgia. And I was trying to figure out what happened to them. And in part 1, I was describing the books that I am using for my research. I found out about some good books, and I wanted to share them with you. I touched on the Dawes Roll, the Dawes Commission right here. I mentioned this book earlier, and I pretty much, gave you an overview of what I thought of initially prior to reading it. But I told you about the pictures that was in the book. It was not clear at all. It showed the back of the heads of the Indians. And in that book, they showed the Negro Indians for the Cherokee Indians and also for the Choctaw. I believe it's Choctaw. I believe it's the Choctaw or the Chickasaw Indians. I believe it's the Choctaw Indians. They had pictures of them, but both of them were very blurry and from afar, so you didn't get a chance to see what the Indians are. And I was also talking about this book here, the Cherokee Diaspora. I don't know if y'all can see it. There it is. I like this picture on the front of the book. It's actually, almost copper colored like I am, even a little bit darker. This is great. This author at least gave a good picture of what the Indians look like, the Aborigine Indians of Cherokee. If you look closely on the cover, it looked like this particular Indian has his hair in twists or in some sort of twist or braid, which is really good. I'm happy about that. The only thing is this book mostly focuses on the subtitle says An Indigenous History of Migration, Resettlement, and Identity. So I haven't really had a chance to read through this book. I sort of thumbed through it and saw the chapters and everything. I know at the beginning part, it just pretty much brushes over the beginning part of what the Indians were like. It just sort of just brushes through and goes straight into the 1700s, and then it goes into the Trail of Tears and all of that. But there was one passage in the book that I wanted to share with you all. They shared some hint as to what happened to the Indians. It says right here, recent archaeological and anthropological and historical research highlights the importance of town and regional identities among the 18th century Cherokees. Scholars observe the following: the decline and gradual abandonment of the Mississippi era chiefdoms from the 15th century. Indigenous people experienced a period of instability and migration. This movement of people, which coincide with the environmental changes associated with the Little Ice Age between the 16th and early 19th century, and with the initial waves of European colonists and traders entering North America, which is the cause that archaeologists and anthropologists refer to as the co-adolescent societies. So that's pretty much what they said. And I want to analyze this little passage here because it pretty much told you what happened to the Aborigine Indians. If you listen closely, it says scholars observed the following: decline and gradual abandonment of the area during the 15th century. Now, everybody know that Christopher Columbus entered the Americas around the late 1400s. And so and then they started moving upward towards the United States area. Well, I believe they also hit north as well, where Chief Powhatan was in Virginia's. So, and they were forcing them into slavery, pretty much forced labor. And so they moved further down south and discovered Georgia. And around the time period when the Aborigines started disappearing off was right when the European settlers started moving in and starting their colonies. So my theory is, I believe that what they did was they probably did a mass killing of these Indians, maybe killed them off. And I believe they enslaved them. I believe slavery started much earlier than what they claim it started. They keep on insisting it started in the 1600s. I think the reason why they don't want to acknowledge all of this happened, they said migration. If you read further, it says here, from the 15th century, indigenous people experienced a period of social instability and migration. The social instability was them killing them and killing off the people, probably, and kidnapping them and forcing them into slavery. The migration was them sending them over to the Caribbean, sending them out of the country, which they were often doing, was sending them into the islands. Those who they figured was a threat, they just sent them away. And those, they probably captured the women and children and threw them into slavery. That's exactly what happened. So they didn't want to acknowledge that they pretty much took over and stole the land from the indigenous people, which are our people, the Aborigines. And the AKA African Americans are actually the Aborigines of this country. And so, they try to say little ice age. I looked that up, and it was not nearly as bad as the ice age during the past. If you don't pay attention, if you research little ice age, it was like further north in the Americas. So it didn't kill everybody off like they claim it did. People were still here. It was just a smoke screen to cover up the fact that they had pretty much captured the Indians and enslaved them. That's my theory. That's what I believe happened. And then I believe the Mongoloid Indians came down much later. They were not here. And so I just wanted to mention that you have to read between the lines, because they're not going to tell you the straight truth. They pretty much beat around the truth. And it's pretty clear right here to me why they mentioned the decline. When they had the decline, you'll notice that there were an increase in slaves and an increase in numbers of people being shipped over to the Caribbean. So, and they pretty much erased our history. Probably poor documentation, lack of documentation, because they don't want to show in the future that they owe us lots of money in reparation. So, not just for slavery, but also stolen land that they need to return back to the rightful people. So, yeah, I wanted to share that with you. This book was really good. I wanted to show that passage with you. It's inside this book, and it was on page 29. So I wanted to touch on that. I guess I have to do a third video because I got a little long-winded. I'm not sure. I'm not going to have time to talk about this one that's on the screen still. I sort of went on I want to explain that passage to you, because that was very, very important as to what happened to the Indians when during that time period. It's just weird how the Indians all of a sudden, it's mentioned. They describe the Indians as being dark skinned, not too far different from the Ethiopians. And everybody know in the past, the Ethiopians were actually the continent of Africa. That's what it represents. So it's dark skinned people. So that's it. I'm running out of time. Please like this video and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, peace and be blessed. And bye-bye.